nomenclature for plant and animal and called as dictionary of classification, and he was called as father of modern taxonomy. The super specific categories assigned in classification are called taxa, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. The word phylum is given by John Cavier. The word classification, class, order was given by C. Carlius Linnaeus. The word species, genus and family was given by John Ray. Animal kingdom, protozoa and metazoa. Protozoa में आते हैं यूग्लिना, पैरामीशियम, एलेट्रियम, एकोलाई. एंड सब किंगडम मेटाजोआ में मल्टीसेलर में मेसोजोआ, पैराजोआ एंड एंटरजोआ. एंटरजोआ में आते हैं रेडिएटा और बाइलेरिया में आते हैं ईसिलोमेट, सूडोसोलोमेट और यूसिलोमेट. पैरामीशियम इज अ माइक्रोस्कोपिक. पैरामीशियम वो प्रोटोजोआ था ना, प्रोटोजोआ. Paramecium is a microscopic organism. It is a protozoa, comes under cilia. It can be visible in the naked eye. It can unicellular. They live in aquatic environment. They are used as a feeding organism for fish. They are called as jun. They contain animal-like feature with few characteristic of plant and fungal organism. None and characteristic of protozoa. Paramecium unicellular, eukaryotic, heterotropic, basic. They lack cell wall but have a definite shape, motile. Aerobic, that can live in anaerobic condition. To digestive tract, they have macronucleus controls metabolism, and they have micronucleus involved in conjugation. They have characteristic of homeostasis, auto temperature regulation. They have macronucleus which control metabolism, and micronucleus which is involved in conjugation. They have macronucleus which involves metabolism and micronucleus which involves in conjugation. They have anal pore for excretion of wastage, and they have trichocyst for defense mechanism. Habitat, free living, can be marine, terrestrial or freshwater, can be parasitic, abundant in soil, plant and animal. Some lives in gut or termites and ruminants. They are found in plentiful of habitats. Pellicle of paramecium, external envelope of body is clear, firm, living and elastic circular membrane. A single cilium emerges out from the middle of each polygon or circular space. When a stained specimen are observed under 8 microscope, pellicle appears to be a regular cervic of polygon, hexagonal depression with their raised rings. Pellicle of membrane has a series of 3 layers: outer cell membrane, outer alveolar membrane, inner alveolar membrane, cilia. The entire body surface of paramecium is covered by numerous tiny hair-like fine projections called as cilia, 10 to 12 micrometer in length and 0.27 micrometer in diameter. One cilium arises from the center of each polygon on depression, and the pellicle, about 10,000 to 14,000 cilia, covers the body of paramecium. The motile organelle is arranged in regular longitudinal rows, and their length are uniform throughout except for few longer cilia at their extreme posterior end of the body, forming a caudal through, so it is called as caudatum. Cytoplasm. Within the pellicle, the cytoplasm of the paramecium body is differentiated into two regions, ectoderm and endoplasm. The ectoderm, the narrow peripheral clear the dense zone, is called as ectoplasm. The ectoplasm, it includes the structure of intrafacillary system and the trichocyst. Endoplasm, the large central granular semifluidal zone, is termed as endoplasm or medulla, and includes the cell organelle like mitochondria, Golgi body, crystal reserve food materials. Intrafacillary system, intermediate beneath the pellicular alveoli. Trichocysts are peculiar specific rod-like oval colonies present through the ectoplasm alternating within the basal bodies and oriented at the right angles to the body surface. They are very small in the size of 4 micrometer to in length. Each trichocyst consists of an elongated shaft and a terminal pointed tip caused as a spike barb covered by a cap. The matrix of shaft consists of dense mass of fibrous protein called as trichinin nucleus. Paramecium is heterokaryotic, so as it possesses two kinds of nucleus, and the large macronucleus is included in the metabolism and the micronucleus is included in the conjugation. It is usually spherical with a nuclear membrane and with triploid number of chromosomes. It contains the reproductive activity of the organism. Contractile vacuole. In paramecium, there are two types of contractile vacuole and they occupy fixed position in the endoplasm. One vacuole lies near each end of the body, close to the dorsal surface. Each contractile vacuole opens outside through a permanent pore in dorsal side of the body. So dorsal means front side of the body, so each contractile vacuole opens outside through a permanent pore on the dorsal side of the body. In paramecium, there are two types of contractile vacuole and they occupy fixed position in the endoplasm, not in the ectoplasm. Okay. Contractile vacuole, trichocyst, nucleus, and food vacuole. Numerous non-contractile food vacuole, gas vacuole can be seen moving in the endoplasm called cyclosis. They differ in shape and size according to the nature of ingested food particle, mostly rounded. Oral apparatus. In paramecium, oral groups leads ventrally and posteriorly as a tubular structure called as vestibule. Oral apparatus. In paramecium, oral groups lead ventrally and posteriorly as a tubular structure, i.e. called as vestibule, that leads directly into the wide tubular passage called a buccal cavity, which further turns and open into a narrow gullet or cytopharynx through a narrow aperture called cytostome. The cytopharynx at its proximal end forms food vacuole. Buccal cavity at its right hand side is broadened by cilia forming by endorsal. At the left side, there are three groups of 4 rows of cilia extending from the rim of opening to the posterior end of the buccal cavity. There are ventral panicules, dorsal panicules, and caudalins cytopyge. Near the posterior end of the body, a little behind the cytostome, a little right side small. Here, at the time of ejection, a minute aperture is called. That is wrong. Anterior contractile vacuole, posterior contractile vacuole, food vacuole, macronucleus, trichocyst, pellicle, endoplasm, rows of cilia, oral groove, vestibule, cytostome, cytopharynx, cytopyge, caudal tuft of cilia, posterior and anterior end of the body. Locomotion in paramecium. It has a streamlined body which enables it to swim about in water with the minimum amount of friction. The rapid swimming in paramecium is facilitated by beating of fine hair-like cellular organelles called as cilia that covers the animal entire cell wall. Speed is 1500 meter per second. Ciliary beating during movement of a cilium oscillates like a pendulum, and each oscillation comprises a fast effective stroke and a slow recovery stroke. During the effective stroke, the cilium becomes slightly curved and rigid and strikes water like an oar so that the body is propelled forward in opposite direction of the stroke. The recovery stroke which follows immediately brings the cilium again into its position for the next effective stroke. So any effective stroke is followed by a recovery stroke, and it is opposite to the direction of propagation, and it is in the speed of 1500 meters per second. Mode of swimming. The animal doesn't follow a straight track but rotates, then propels forward, but rotates spirally like a rifle bullet along the left-handed helix. Nutrition. Holozoic, as an amoeba, consists mainly of bacteria, Bacillus coci. It also feeds upon protozoans, unicellular plant, algae, diatoms, yeast, small bits of animal, vegetables or plants. Feeding mechanism. Paramecium swims to different places, catch food via food catching apparatus, specialized. Food is ingested by a definite cell mouth cytostome lying in the bottom of buccal cavity. The constant Cashion movement of cilia or oral groove drives the current water with the food particle toward the vestibule. Ciliary tract of vestibule directs the food particle into buccal cavity. Paramecium is a selective feeder. Beating of cilia of membrane of buccal cavity drives the food particle through cytostome into the cell gullet or cytopharynx. The food that is gradually collected at the bottom of cytopharynx into membrane of vesicles, which is later shed off as food vacuoles. So it is like ingestion of the food, now digestion of the food. So digestion. Each food vacuole consists of food particles surrounded by a thin film of water. Where food vacuole is circulated around the body, a more or less definite path by slow streaming movement of endoplasm known as cyclosis. The vacuoles gradually become smaller as the digestion and absorption approaches. Finally, the undigested residual matter is eliminated from the body through a definite anal spot or cytopage that is on the ventral surface posterior to the cytostome. So here is cytopage, it is posterior to the cytostome. These are food vacuoles. Excretion and respiration. Respiration is done by permeable pellicle layer. Crystals present in the cytoplasm are dissolved and eliminated with fluid of contractile vacuole. The solid waste or excretory product is removed through cytopage. Osmoregulation. The function of contractile vacuole is osmoregulation. Small quantities of water are also taken in along with the ingested food within the paramecium. This excess of water gets rid via contractile vacuole, which contract and expand. Thus, osmolarity of paramecium maintains. The function of contractile vacuole is osmoregulation. Small quantities of water are also taken in along with the ingested food within the paramecium. This excess of water gets rid via contractile vacuole, which contracts systole and expands diastole. Thus, osmolarity of the paramecium is maintained. Behavior. The way in which an organism establish an active relationship called as behavior, it is largely determined by environment stimuli to which organism is subjected. Paramecium responds to different kind of stimuli: light intensity, temperature, concentration of oxygen, concentration of CO2, different kind of chemical in water. These stimuli produces definite behavior in a pattern in the paramecium. Reactive behavior. Reproduction. Paramecium reproduces usually by transverse binary fission, also undergo nuclear reorganization, conjugation, endomixis, and autogamy. Binary fission. During the favorable condition, paramecium mostly reproduce by transverse horizontal binary fission, which is at right angle to the longitudinal axis of the body. Paramecium stops feeding and its oral groove and buccal structure disappears at the time of a micronucleus starts dividing. By this process of mitosis, equational division, the nuclear membrane remain intact in it. Simultaneously, the macronucleus divides amitotically by simply becoming longitudinal and concentrated in the middle. Then two oral grooves begin to form, one in the interior half of the body and one in the posterior half. Two original contractile vacuoles remain the same. Two new buccal structures also appear. Meanwhile, a constriction furrow appears near the middle of the body that deepens and ultimately cytoplasmic divide, resulting into two-daughter paramecium. So micronucleus divide mitotically and macronucleus divide longitudinally, amitotically and constricted in the middle. Simultaneously, two oral grooves begin to form on the interior half of the body and the posterior half of the body, and two original contractile vacuole remain the same. Two new buccal structure also appear, and a constriction furrow appears near the middle of the body that deepens and ultimately the cytoplasmic divide, resulting into two-daughter paramecium. Obelia. Sea fur. Obelia geniculata. Strictly marine, have polyp and medusa form. Colonial. System position: phylum Coelenterata, order Hydrozoa, class Hydroidera, family Eucopiae, genus Obelia, species Geniculata. Habitat and habit: marine, colonial, cosmopolitan, in distribution. Abundant in Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, have both sexual and asexual form. Prominent branched hydroid colony found attend to crops, stones, shells, and animals. Inconspicuous bell or umbrella-like structure, free swimming in nature, and it is called as medusa. So morphology: a hydroid colony of Obelia is delicate, semi-transparent, whitish, light brown in color. Morphology: habitat: marine, colonial, cosmopolitan in nature, abundant in Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. Consists of vertical branching strands called as hydrocalli, singular hydrocallus, rising 2 to 3 cm above. Each vertical hydrocallus branches are in alternate manner. Each ultimate branch terminates into a nutritive zooid, polyp, or hydrant. In the axial of older polyp are placed cylindrical. Reproductive zooids are blastocysts or gonangia. Thus, Obelia colony is dimorphic, exhibiting two types of zooid. Blastocysta develop sausage-shaped body called as medusa. These colonies become trimorphic. Some sort of similar to bryophytes. These are spores. They germinate to form medusa. Then they fertilize to form zygote. 2 cell stage, 4 cell stage, free swimming plant larva. Then develop on the substratum, young polyp, now mature polyp. They grow the fruiting bodies or the spores, and the spores again germinate to form medusa. But in this, both are diploid. Cenozoic. So let's get the timer. So, coenosac. Branches and zooids of colony consist of an inner tubular living portion called as coenosac. It consists of cellular wall enclosing a console and the coenocercal or gastrovascular cavity, which is continuous with zooids. The cellular wall consists of two layers, diploblastic and outer epidermis and inner gastrodermis. The gelatinous mesoglea is between pericarp. Coenocerc is surrounded by externally by yellowish brown tuft transparent and non-living chitinous layer called as pericarp. Zooids. It is used for an individual form of a coelenterata colony. Hydroid colony of Obelia is dimorphic. It has two types of individual zooids, polyp and medusa, also called as gonangia. These two types of zooids differ morphologically and physiologically. Polyp, hydram. It is nutritive colony, also called as gastrozoids or protozoids. It is yellowish in color and has a form of radially symmetrical or cylindrical or colonial holosac, resembling a miniature hydra. It has a proximal in which is continuous with coenocerc and of hydrocalus. Its distal end which is produced into a conical elevation called as manubrium or hypostome, which is measures about 1/3 of the total length of hydram. Hypostome bears a terminal aperture called as mouth. Pericarp. I don't think I can understand it without watching a video. So let's study comparative study of girdles and integuments. Integuments in biology, it's actually a network of features that forms the covering of an organism. The integuments delimits the body of the organism, separating it from the environment, protecting it from foreign matter. At the same time, it gives communication with the outside, enabling an organism to live in a particular environment and making. The integument is composed of layers that may not be made up of single cell thick as in many invertebrates, or it can be multiple cell thickens or multilayer as in some invertebrates and all invertebrates. In every case, cells give rise to the integuments belonging to that class of tissue called as epithelium, which in most of the animals is called as epidermis. Underlying the epidermis, there is a supplying of nutrient via dermis layer in addition to the cellular layer. The integument sometimes offers a non-cellular coating over the integument called as cuticle that is secreted by epidermis. In addition, such coating found in most of the invertebrates, but the invertebrates they have generated many kind of gland and a variety of horny structure for protection, but lack this cuticle. The wide diversity of integument among vertebrates further helps in the adaptive character of the body covering. Invertebrates integuments. Integuments of unicellular organisms comprises cell membrane and any coating it secretes. Almost all bacteria have an external cell wall that maintains the shape and turgidity of cell and offers the protection. Now, multicellular invertebrates, however, have a single outer layer of epithelium cells, and these may secrete a variety of surface coating ranging from mucosa coat of cnidarians, polyp, sea anemone, jellyfish, to the tough cuticle of insects. The epithelium layer may bear or can have cells of several types, of example, sensory cell, gland cell, stinging cell, while the outer surface may bear microvilli cilia or other form for making as a projection. In addition, the cell may produce excrescence that include brushels, spines, knobs, and ridges. Vertebrates. The integumentary system has many functions called as intricate function, body temperature maintenance, cell fluid maintenance, synthesis of vitamin D, detection of any stimuli. General skin of vertebrates include epidermis, dermis and hypodermis, and epidermis has associated glands, hair or nails. Comparative study of integument. Amphibia. They are devoid of hard structure or limbs or digit. Frogs, salamander, nuptial pad may be developed. They are present only in male and helping in mating or holding the female. Amphibian epidermis has stratum corneum, that is first layer of keratin. Second layer is germination. Skin of amphibia is smooth, it is tough and no scales and gland over the skin. Fishes. The fish is multifunctional organ, have fins. It has epidermis and dermis. Epidermis is multi-layered, having specialized cell. Dermis is inner layer, having fibrous tissue. It contains adipose tissue, pigment cell. Chromatophores may be present on scales for colorization according to environment. Oil glands are present at base of the cell for prevention of water bodies. Now they are devoid of any hard structure, only has epidermis, and then second layer germination. How can germination? I must have written it wrong. Then we come to reptiles, and fishes have epidermis and dermis, in which epidermis is multi-layered, having specialized cell, and dermis is made up of fibrous tissue. Now reptiles. Two layers are present, same as fishes, epidermis and dermis. Epidermis is a hard covering that is armor-like structure in reptiles. It is tough, dry and scaly skin. As in amphibia, there are no scales or any glands on the skin. Scales are made with keratin protein. Scales may be overlapping. Scale can be different type, placoid, cycloid and glanoid. Then aves, they have specialized structure bearing feathers. They are for attraction. They have three distinct components: cornified epidermis, smooth musculature, abrachial muscle or feather where the feather arises, and dermis having subcutaneous layer. Skin of aves is thin, loose and dry. Mammalia, it has only two layer, epidermis and dermis, and subcutaneous layer which is thick, elastic and waterproof. So it is general skin of vertebrates. Amphibia, fishes, reptiles and aves and mammals. Then we will study girdles, then general characteristic of chordata, then classification of chordata, up to classes I think. Okay. So here we are only reviewing the notes. I'm not learning or revising it right now because I think to learn it, to be able to write it in the answers, I have to revise it at least 3 times more and then get a rough idea what to write in the exam. So here I'm only reviewing the notes. Girdles, comparative anatomy of girdles. The postcranium of vertebrates is skeleton is divided into axial and appendicular skeleton. So the straight thing is axial and whatever is present horizontally it is appendicular. Axial skeleton includes vertebrates, ribs, sternum, and the appendicular skeleton of vertebrates includes girdles, forelimbs, paired appendages. Paired appendages are one of the features distinguished vertebrates from their chordate ancestors. Throughout vertebrates' evolution, a diversity of appendages morphology has emerged, linked to a variety of locomotor modes and lifestyles. The fish's pectoral girdle is attached to the skull, but the pelvic girdle is not attached to the axial skeleton. Tetrapods, the bones of pectoral the bones of pectoral girdle lost their contact with skull and attaches to the axial skeleton by muscle and ligament. The pelvic girdle, however, articulates with at least one of the vertebrates and provides rigidity and non-muscular support, so thereby reducing the energy it requires to elevate the body over the limbs. Most vertebrates retain a free-floating pectoral lid, a girdle attached by muscle ligament to the axial skeleton. Pectoral girdle. On each side of pectoral girdle of fishes, contractile, no whatever, cartilaginous fishes, shark, elasmobrachs. There is one large scapulocoracoid. The area where fin articulates is called as glenoid region. In bony fishes, pectoral girdle has both endochondral and intramembranous component. Dermal. Endodermal elements include scapula and anterior coracoid. Dermal bones include clenithrum and supraclithernum and includes post-temporal and clavicle altogether form the pectoral girdle. Okay, it's not that easy to learn. I think I definitely need to revise it 5 times to be able to write the answer. Then amphibia. Endochondral element are anterior coracoid, posterior coracoid and scapula. Dermal elements that are present in pectoral girdle are clenithrum, clavicle and interclavicle. I think I'm just only reading it. Aves, specialized pectoral girdle with layer of anterior coracoid, a thin scapula and clavicle fuses with the interclavicle to form furcula wishbone. Definitely need to change the subject, but I need to at least review it once. In monostreams, scapula, posterior coracoid, anterior coracoid and interclavicle and clavicles are present and form the girdle. Fine, we are changing the topic. Now I'm just this thing is different. I think I can read it. In therians, marsupials and placental mammals, the endochondral component of pectoral girdle has lost the anterior coracoid and posterior coracoid is reduced to a process on the scapula. The only intramembranous component of the clavicle, and it has only bony connection to the pectoral girdle and to the axial skeleton. Now we will start with the pelvic girdle. I have studied the pectoral girdle. So, fishes. In short, pelvic fin is attached to the acetabulum of the Pelvic fin is attached to the acetabulum to the pelvic girdle cartilaginous. There is a small iliac process that is akin scapular process of the pectoral girdle. In bony fishes, pelvic girdle remains free. The axial skeleton similarly to the condition of shark. Pubocean bone fuses with the left and the right girdle and the pelvic bone or cartilage to which the pelvic fin is attached to the basic. I won't read it. I can't read it. Amphibia. Salamander pelvic girdle has pubocia with a median symphysis and the iliac process that contact the transfer process on the single sacral vertebrae. I don't think I have written it. In some aquatic salamander, there is a lack of hind limbs and pelvic girdle. In anurians, pelvic girdle is specialized. Amphibia without tail. Anurians. Where the ilium is long and it is attached anteriorly to the transfer process of sacral vertebrae. The ischium and the pubis are small, but they participate in the acetabulum, and the urostyle form a second articulation between the vertebral column and the pelvic girdle. Aves. In aves and birds, the os coxa is formed by the ilium, ischium and pubis, but ilium fuses with sacral vertebrae, forming a synsacrum. The synsacrum is rigid but light in weight. Usually in aves, there is no pubic or ischial symphysis for permitting the eggs passage of whatever this is. Mammalia, os coxa is formed by fusion of ilium, ischium and pubis. There may also be an acetabular or corticoidal bone in acetabulum, and I think it is completed. The two ossa coxae usually fuse to each other at pubis symphysis, and sometimes also at an ischial symphysis. There is a loss of or tutor foramen bounded by the pubic and the lesion. Chordata. Group A, Acraniata, and Group B, Craniata. Acraniata is also called as protochordata, and craniata is also called as urochordata. Protochordata are the lower chordates, as the name suggests. Proto and euchordata are higher chordate, as the name suggests. These are also similar to prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So lower chordates are without skull, and it has 3 subphylum: subphylum 1 hemichordata, subphylum 2 urochordata, and subphylum 3 cephalochordata. Same as in craniata or urochordata, there is subphylum 4 vertebrata, which is again divided into 2 divisions. Division 1 agnatha and division 2 ganathostoma. Agnatha are jawless fishes and ganathostoma are jawed fishes. Then ganathostoma are again divided into superclasses. One is superclasses Pisces and one is superclasses Tetrapoda. They are anemyota and these are amyota. Okay, Pisces, it includes ostracoderma, cyclostoma, placodermi, contractiles, and ostractiles. And the superclass Tetrapoda includes amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammals. So here we are studying the general characteristics of chordata. All vertebrates are chordates, but not all chordates are vertebrates. I think I have cracked it finally. Yes. Okay. General characteristics of chordata. They can be aquatic, terrestrial, and aerial. They all are free living, no fully parasitic form. Body can be small or large, variable in range. Bilaterally symmetrical, metameric segmentation may be present or non present. Post-anal tail is usually projecting, may or may not be persistent in the adult. Now this is the diagrammatic representation of a chordate. This is the anterior end, posterior end, dorsal hollow nerve cord, a notochord, pharyngeal gill cells, mouth, pharynx, trunk, hepatic cecum, and digestive tube. It may or may not be persistent in the adult. I think we are talking about the post-anal tail. Then exoskeleton often developmentally well in most vertebrae. Body wall triploblastic, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Coelomate, animal having 2 coelom and can be enterocoliac and schizocoliac. 9 glands, 5 sense organ. Don't know what 7 I have written. A skeleton rod that is called a notochord is present at some stages of life in chordata. Cartilaginous or bony fishes have jointed endoskeleton is present in majority of the organism. Vertebrata. Pharyngeal gill cells are present at some stages, may or may not be functional. Digestive system is complete and with digestive glands. Blood vascular system is closed. Heart is ventral with dorsal and ventral blood vessels. Hepatic portal system is well developed. Excretory system comprising of proto, meso, and metanephric kidney. Nerve cord is dorsal and tubular. Anterior end usually enlarges to form brain. Dioecious with rare exceptions. 3 fundamental characteristics of chordates. All chordates have 3 outstanding unique characteristics at some stages of life. A dorsal hollow tubular nerve cord, a longitudinal supporting rod like notochord, and a series of pharyngeal gill slits. The central nervous system is present in the dorsal side. It is in the form of long, hollow tubular nerve cord lying just above the notochord, extending the lengthwise on the body. I think I definitely need some water. The central nervous system is present in the dorsal side. It is in the form of long, hollow tubular nerve cord lying just above the notochord, extending lengthwise in the body. The nerve cord or neural tube is derived from dorsal endodermal neural plate of embryo and encloses a cavity called as neurocele. invertebrates, all chordates are not vertebrates, but all vertebrates are chordates. Yes, I have written it correctly. All chordates are not vertebrates, but all vertebrates are chordates. The anterior region of nerve cord is specialized from cerebral vesicle or brain. The posterior part of nerve cord becomes the spinal cord present in the ventral column. Not much part is left behind. I can do it. Notochord. The notochord is an elongated rod-like flexible structure extending lengthwise of the body. It is present beneath the nerve cord and just above the digestive canal. It originates from endodermal roof of embryonic antecodon. It is composed of large vacuolated notochordal cells, pharyngeal gill slits, and all chordates at some stages of life. A series of paired lateral gill slits or gill cleft perforated through gill slits. There are a variety of termed as pharyngeal, branchial, or visceral cleft. The pharyngeal glit arches and are supporting them occurs in primitive jawless type of membrane shark and humans. There are modification in gill arches present in human. Arch 1, stapes, incus malleus, Meckel's cartilage. Arch 2, hyoid, stelloid, process of hyoid. Arch 3, ligament. 4, 5, 6 include thyroid, cricoid, cartilaginous, tonsil, thymus, and Arch 7 is tracheal cartilage. Group A, Acraniata. First group A, Acraniata, and first subphylum Hemichordata. So subphylum Hemichordata. Notochord is confined to proboscis, non-homologous with that of chordates. It has 4 classes: Entronipsota, Pterobranchia, Blancophyroides, Graptolta. Notochord is confined to proboscis. Body is large. Worm-like gill slits are numerous. Intestine is straight. Acorn or tongue worm. Example: Glenuloglossus and Saccoglossus. Pterobranchia. Intestine is U-shaped. Body is small and compact. Gill slits 1 pair or none. Example: Ledoblura and Cephalodiscans. Planctospheroidea. Transparent, round and specialized. Ternaria larva having extensively branched ciliary bands and L-shaped alimentary canal. Example: Fossil graptulates were abundant in Ordovician and Silurians. This is subphylum 2, Urochordata or Tunicata. Notochord or nerve cord present only in tadpole larva. Adult is sac-like, often sessile and encased in a protective tunic, so called as tunicata. They have 3 classes: Acidiacea, Thalassia, Larvaceae. Acidiacea, sessile, tunicates with scattered muscles in the tunic. Solitary, colonial or compound. Gill cleft is numerous, called as Acidacean or sea squat. Example: Herdmania and Siona. So next name, Thalacia, free swimming or pelagic tunicates with circular muscle. Sometimes they are colonial, salpa or deludium. Larvaceae, also called as Apundicularia, tiny, transparent, free-floating adult, retain many larval features having tail and only 2 gill slits. Example, Oikoplura. Also nice name. Siuna, Oikoplura, sounds like Pokemon. Cephalochordata, notochord and novchord. So it is subphylum 3, Cephalochordata, notochord and novchord, present throughout life. It is present along the entire length of the body. It has only one class, leptochordic, bodies fish-like, segmented with distinct mitostomes and numerous gill slits, free swimming and burrowing, also called as lanuciliates. Example, Amphioxus or Branchiostoma. Group B, Acraniata and Cochordata. Aquatic or terrestrial, usually with large size of higher chordates, vertebrates, distinct head and a vertebral column, jaws, brain protected by skull or cranium. They have single subphylum called as vertebrata. Vertebrata has 2 divisions, Agnatha and Gnathostoma. Notochord supplemented or replaced by a vertebral column. The backbone is composed of overlapping vertebrates. Body is divided into head, neck, trunk and tail. They are usually dioecious. Agnatha, jawless. Has 2 classes, osteodermy and cyclostomata. Several extant orders of ancient time. Example, Cephalopsis. Cyclostoma, body is N-shaped without any scales, jaws and lateral fins. Mouth is rounded and succural. Gills 3 to 16 pair. Parasite, example, lamprey, petromyzon and headfish. Gnathostoma, jawed. They have 2 superclasses. Superclass 1, Pisces, Placodermy, Chondrichthyes, Ostractis. Superclass 2, Tetrapoda, Reptilia, aves, mammals and amphibia. Superclass 1, Pisces, Placodermy, Chondrichthyes, Ostractis. Placodermy, extant order, extant jawed, earliest jawed fishes. Extant order, earliest jawed fishes, bony head. Shield is called as placoderms. Example, limetans. I think that is limetans. Chondrichthyes, mostly marine, cartilaginous, endoskeleton, skin with placoid scales, gill slits not covered by operculum. Pelvic claspers are present in male, called as cartilaginous fishes. Scoliodon, dogfish, also called as snout head. Ostractids, freshwater and marine, endoskeleton is bony. Skin is having various type of scales, cycloid, sphenoid and gill slits covered by operculum. Protopterans, hungfish or hippocampus, seahorse. Tetrapoda, land vertebrates. 2 pair of pentadactylous limbs have cornified rough skin and lungs. Amphibia, larval stage is usually aquatic. They breathe by gill adults. Terrestrial, skin is moist, glandular and with no external scale and with a heart is 3-chambered. Example, Rana, Bufo, Amphistoma and Ambystoma. Reptilia, terrestrial, tetrapoda, skin is dry, covered by endodermal scales, can have bony plates. They have 4-chamber heart. Respiration is by lungs. Hemidactylus, wall lizard. Uromastrix, spiny tail lizard and Crocodylus, aves. Typically flying vertebrates, covered with feathers, 4 limbs modified into wings, no teeth in the beak. Then mammal heart is 4-chambered, warm-blooded, Columbus and Struckentus. Mammalia body is covered by hair, skin is glandular, female having mammary glands, secrete milk for nourishment of young ones, heart is 4-chambered, warm-blooded, air breathing. Example, Echinidae, Macroratus and Homo sapien. So it's completed in 1 hour, although I have just read it and reviewed it. I'm gonna revise it few more times.